fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Fuel, the podcast for fixing underperformance and evolving leadership within the automotive industry. Fuel is bringing you the latest in proven strategies and techniques that can take your service department to the next level.
Well, welcome back to the Fuel Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Keith. I'm here with Mr. Troy Tucker. How you doing, Troy?
I'm doing great, Alex.
So Troy is actually with the Cavender Automotive Group and been in the business since 1992, right?
Yes.
So you've been around through the fun 90s and then dealing all through the fun 90s and now into the 2000s. And so I see here that you went to University of Arkansas, go Razorbacks.
Yes, whoop pig. I left my hog hat at home.
Perfect. So kind of, if you don't mind me asking, I see that you've got, years of experience. You've got a bunch of awards. You've worked, with Toyota, with Lexus, you've worked your way up through the management corp, now being a general manager and everything. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of got you started down that path?
Yeah. So at Arkansas, I guess I was fortunate enough that one of the vice presidents of Toyota USA went to Arkansas. So I guess they said, you know what, let's go see if we can find somebody else. And so that's how I kind of got entertained by it, because I marketing management degree, didn't think I was going to do cars. And guess what? I'm doing cars. So it's kind of wild. So it was kind of an odd situation though, because I was interviewed, I accepted the job, and then I watched year after year after year. And I said, I asked the HR lady, I said, so nobody else from Arkansas? And she goes, we stopped going there after we got you. So I wasn't sure if that was good or bad. But it's been a fun ride, and I did have hair when I started, and now I don't, which I think a lot of people in this business can understand. So, but it's been a fun ride. Started my career on the 800 number, taking calls from Toyota customers, and most of them weren't happy. So I got baptism into the business just by taking a bunch of calls, and it didn't scare me away. And today, years later, I'm running the BMW store here in Lubbock, Texas.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, the thing about the hair situation, our director of our coaches, Jack Flynn, he's the same kind of hairstyle, and he just says it's one less thing to worry about. So that's what you got going for you.
Yeah, you're right. It is just one less thing, but you can tell there's some shine. I guess I probably should have put some powder on, but it'll be all right. I'll make it through.
We'll make it through.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm so excited to have you on to talk about this topic, because I know it's starting to become a little bit of a baby of yours in developing this process. But sales to service, like the understanding that formula for consistency, I think, is the biggest thing that we want to talk about today. And in some of the conversations that we've been having and that I've been seeing out in the market, is starting to get our service advisor team to maybe understand that sometimes you're not really sales, but it is kind of a sales mentality for opportunity and how we promote that opportunity. But a lot of times there's a missed process. They talk about writing the customer up and getting the customer in the shop and taking care of them. And then how does the general manager come into play to maybe connect the dots a little bit? So I think you've got some interesting stuff as far as what you've got brewing. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So Alex, it started. We've been with your company for a while, and my fixed ops director and myself got to go to class in Dallas. And our expectations going in there were like, we're not exactly sure. Are they just going to teach us more what Alex is teaching us? Or are we going to deep dive into more reports? They gave us just a handful of reports, but then it said, okay, take this data, and then now let's see, how do you put it in action? And one of the whole sections of that was service is sales, sales is service, right? And I started thinking about it, and a lot of the organizations I've worked with over the year have been very process driven. And I looked at what we're doing here at Cavender, and we have a very successful sales process for sales. So I started digging in a little bit when I got back, and there's different versions of a service process out there for a lot of different folks, but I really wanted to take it and define it with my fixed ops director using the experience that I had on the sales side and go, okay, let's put this thing together and let's come up with the same one. So literally the shell of what I started was taking the sales process we have in place that we have to follow, that we need to be perfect at every time to sell a car. And then I basically took the same steps and I started cultivating those steps into what it looks like on the service drive.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a very eye-opening and fun experience, right? It starts with the appointment. Well, guess what a sale starts with? For the most part, appointment. I mean, we're an appointment-based culture here at Cavender. So, I mean, it's appointments. So it's how you handle the appointment. How do you confirm the appointment? So then you get to the whole part of when they come on the drive, right? Same thing. They come on the lot for sales. So it just went through the process, and it's been very eye-opening for us. And probably the coolest thing we've done right now is Patrick and I, my fixed ops director, we've got it all together. And I said, well, this isn't final until we have everybody else's input. So we made copies of what we came up with and got it to all the service advisors and said, look, here's kind of the deal, because one of the things we want is we want accountability. And if they're bought into the process, then we're going to have the accountability. And so right now I'm waiting on the feedback, but it's really simple. This is not a book. This is not, 10 pages or 14 chapters. This is a 1-page back, front and back, that we're going to laminate, and we're going to coach to that. And some people are going to be really strong at certain steps, just like there are in sales. And then some people are going to need opportunity, have opportunities in certain steps to do. And we're going to come up with training plans, individual training plans, to make sure that everybody understands the process and can follow the process, because ultimately we need more hours per RO on the cars we see. And the best part about all this is technology has helped us a lot with videos. We're doing videos on every car that goes in the shop. Even if it's in for a 5,000 mile service, it's brand new, we're still doing a video because we want people to get used to seeing their car and seeing it, and it helps sell stuff off their car, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
a car with 60,000 miles, they brought it in for a service, but then you know what? All of a sudden now we show them something that's leaking. And so it's really cool that we have those videos. So then you take those videos, you send them, and then what happens? It's the service advisor's turn, right? We've sent them a repair quote, we've got the video, and what we see a lot of times, and it's not everybody, but you do see, like, well, we'll just see if they respond. We'll see if we'll just say, because the other thing everybody's doing is they approve or decline stuff on their phone.
Yep.
So we're trying to make it easier for people to do business with us, but at the same time, we have to have that personal connection, just like you do in the sales process when you're going through the sales steps. So that's the biggest part is, okay, now we have all this. We got great videos. We got all these things. How do we take that and then sell more work on the service drive? Don't sell unnecessary work, but sell validated work that's going to increase our customer pay hours per RO. And that's where we're going with our sales process for service.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. I think that's some of the biggest issues that we hear and talk about in the fixed ops world is when general managers start to get involved and they don't have a fixed ops background. I mean, you started with a marketing degree, so the idea of this is, how are you trying to connect the dots? And I think you said it perfectly. You guys have a very good, consistent process in the Cavender Group as far as the sales process for selling a car, and then trying to mirror that into the world. And I think you said ultimately when you went to the 2-day workshop with Dynatron, you started to hear things that they're talking about, and you're like, this is fixed ops, but it sounds a lot like what I do and where my wheelhouse is at. And I think the more general managers can understand, they can get a hand in the game too. They can be, they don't have to be over here just standing on the lane, kind of visualizing what's going on. They can get their hands in there. They can start implementing processes. So, you said it all starts with the appointment. We had a good podcast with a gentleman from the Traver Group, Bob Gowers, and he was talking about just answering the phone, just picking the phone up, so coming off of getting the appointment, getting them on the service drive, getting them in that, I think when they're communicating, like as you talk to your sales team about communication with the customer, are there key things that they pick up on from the customer, from what they're giving them as far as, calls, complaint, concern, whatever they're giving them? Or how do you kind of shift the evolution of the process and your steps to saying, hey, here's some key things maybe you can start looking at from the sales side in the service department?
Right. And you hit it. One of our most important steps is to do a needs analysis with our customer that comes on the lot. So, we get them in the door, we sit them down, they want to drive this car. We got to get copies of driver's license, insurance. There's a process, right? And then there's a real quick little, basically an interview, and it's quick. So you kind of make sure you're on the right car. You have an idea of what they need. There's certain things that you do up front. And what I found by putting this process together, it's the same deal. So it's fact finding, right? And it's the most valuable step that we have on the sales side. And it should be the most valuable step that we have on the service side. And it starts when you're doing fact finding and the car's right there and you greeted the person. The best time to do fact finding is when the car's right in front of them and you still have the customer there. Obviously you walk around the car, you can point out any damage, make sure everybody understands that, but then you can start going, and then there's a process, right? Do you mind if I turn on your car and see if there's any lights on? Any warning lights. I mean, it's just certain very simple things that you can, you've developed a relationship and you're starting to cultivate that. So when they leave, they know Here's what's going to be done. Here's what I can expect and follow up. Opt into the text messages. That's easy. Find out the best way to communicate. That's exactly what we do on the sales side. Exactly what we do. And we got to take care of it when the car is here. What do you do in sales? You take care of it when the customer's here.
When the
So it's the
customer's
same.
here.
It's just the same thing, right?
It's fun how it's relatable. I mean, it's so simple how you can, it's been probably in your past experience, they're two different entities. They got their world and I got my world, and we've got people in place that can handle this. But now when you start to connect the dots a little bit, so I like the process so far, man. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun with it. And I think that the last part to tie it together would be the close, right? And part of the sales process is getting the close on the vehicle. So how do you start to cultivate what you want to see, or what kind of process you want to implement with the close?
Yeah, so that's step 7, just so you know. Step 7, but it's and one of the things we've heard, and we've heard it from several different folks and people have helped us grow is sales is not a confrontation, it's a conversation. So these people buy higher end cars, and I've been fortunate enough to run some higher end brands over the years, including the one now. And these people are not scared of spending money if you justify it's an investment in their safety, it's an investment in their car. They take a lot of pride when you step up and buy a luxury car or 2 or 3 or 7. You take a lot of pride in that, and so you have to kind of really feed off of that. So it's all about making sure that you're doing you're doing that connection up front, and then when it comes to selling time, you just report back. They've got a video in front of them that shows their car. They've got the pricing already in front of them, so it's not like you're having to give them anything that they haven't already seen, and you're calling in to basically what close them. And to explain to them why this is, it's the same thing as a car. What's the feature? What's the benefit, right? If I'm going to pay for this, what's the benefit? And that's really where it goes, and then it goes a little bit further, Alex, with, okay, so maybe that advisor gets one of 3 things approved. And while we're in there, maybe we could do those other 2 things, but maybe we just need a little help on the price, right? So what does a sales consultant do if they can't close a car deal? They go back to the sales desk. They get one of the sales managers.
To the manager.
The sales manager goes out and talks to the person, right? So I've talked to my fixed ops director. It's like, it's the same situation. If you've got a car in the shop, we're waiting to hear diagnostics, and we've got one thing approved, and you want the other 2 things approved, and the advisor can't, it's not like you're saying the advisor can't do their job. It's just one other person, especially being a manager. And then you just reiterate really what was done. And then at the end, if you have to take a little bit of a price adjustment to get all that work and the extra hours in the shop, you're going to do it. So it really does. I mean, it just all ties together. And this is not rocket science, as you know, but it's just amazing that's kind of how this all comes together again, and it is about that relationship, but then it's following each step to get to that point where you can ask for their business, and ask for the additional business, so it's pretty cool.
So I got to ask, since you said it, how many steps have you developed to this point?
10.
10 steps.
It's 10 total.
You got 10.
It's 10 total. It's not going to go anymore.
10 steps to success from sales to service. I like it. I'm going to trademark that. If you use that, I'm trademarking it. I'm telling you right now. So.
This is being recorded, so we'll all have access to this too. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Troy, man, I want to thank you so much for your time today and going into this process and how you guys are kind of developing it over at Cavender and everything. So I always like to open it up at the end of the conversation for any final remarks, kind of talking about that process, or anything you want to leave with anybody who kind of picks up on, listening to this and maybe implementing it. Any kind of words of advice or closing comments?
Well, I'm a data junkie, and I feel like if you've got the data in front of you and you know how to read the data and you can act on the data, you can win. And my team knows that. And so what I look at is all these indices that we have out there for sales and the service side in particular, and then just honing in on those key areas. And it's not all about, and you've helped us a lot, Alex, and Donatron has on, helping increase our effective labor rate and doing different things. But now it's to the point where we're taking it to a different level. It's like, okay, now we really have to go, okay, with the cars in the shop, I need him, instead of running 1.2 hours per RO, I need him to run 3 hours per RO. Yeah. And that's the development. And that's where this whole sales process sticks in here. So it's been good. I mean, I've been doing it a long time. And of course, everybody I think understands, fixed operations, it's all about absorption. We're going to sell cars for fun and profit, hopefully, and make the money, but you want your fixed ops to be genuine. And I think if we can really master this process, we can definitely take it to the next level.
Absolutely, brother. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe have you back on another fuel podcast. Tell me how it's going, all right?
There you go. Maybe I'll get some powder for my head next time.
We'll work on the filters.
There you go.
All right,
There you
Troy,
go.
man. Thank you so much, man. And we'll catch up with you next time, right?
You got it. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.